Dear brothers and sisters in Christ, today we are going to examine another teaching of Christ, one of the Beatitudes which we could find in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 5. It goes like this in English: Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Let me read it in original Aramaic version, how Jesus would have articulated it in his own mother tongue. Tu be hon in vanaya dehinnun yeretun leara. Tu be hon in vanaya dehinnun yeretun leara. Now, apparently, we do not see any connection between meekness and the earth. Actually, in the Bible, there is a connection. In fact, in the Old Testament, Jewish people were considered as the people of the land. In Hebrew language, it was Ham Ha Eretz, the people of the land. Ha Eretz. That means, actually they were considered, the Jewish people were considered as the people of the promised land. And also the concept of the land goes back to the beginning of the Bible. If we read the first chapter of the Genesis, in the beginning God created the earth and the heavens. The earth, Ha Eretz, or the land. So land is a must, a prerequisite for life. Only later life was created. Actually, on the sixth day. The land was created on the first day. So no land, no life. They are intimately interdependent. In fact, life emerged out of the land. If we go to the second chapter of the Genesis, second chapter verse 10, it says, God created the man, or the Ha-Adam, out of the dust of the ground. Ground means Ha-Adamah in Hebrew. So this creature, this earthly creature, was created out of the earth, actually. Ha-Adam, or the human, the creature, was created out of the Ha-Adamah, of the ground. So that connection is very, very crucial. So human life emerged out of the earth. So humans are earthly creatures. It's the earth that sustains and nourishes human life. No earth, humans cannot survive. Human cannot get its food and other nourishments. So land is a must for human life to flourish. So that's why the concept of land was so much emphasized. In fact, God says that in the Old Testament, land is mine, the land belongs to me. God is the owner of the land. If He has given us a piece of land, it is given as a gift. The whole of it belongs to God. He is the owner of the land. So the concept of land is very crucial in the whole Bible. So when we become meek, when we become humble, when we depend upon God, or when we develop that interior simplicity, we could truly inherit the land. In the sense, we could truly feel at home in this land. So we feel we are part of God's creation, part of God's earth. Actually, if we go to one of the Psalms, Psalm 37, the connection between land and humility or the meekness is very much emphasized. For Jesus' teaching in Matthew 5:5, you could see the influence of Psalm 37. In fact, for Jesus' teaching from the Old Testaments, there are 3 books that are utterly crucial, utterly decisive. In other words, he quoted most of the time from these 3 books. One is the book of Genesis. The other one is of course, Deuteronomy, book of Deuteronomy, and the prophet Isaiah, book of the prophet Isaiah, and Psalms. They were crucial. Even out of those 4 books, Deuteronomy, Psalms, and Isaiah, he most of the time quoted from. So let's take a look at Psalm 37, some portions from Psalm 37. I will read verse 9. The evildoers shall be cut off, but those who wait for the Lord shall inherit the land, or ha-eretz. Again, verse 11. But the meek shall inherit the land and delight themselves in abundant peace. And verse 22. For those blessed by the Lord shall inherit the land, but those who curse by him shall be cut off. Again 29, verse 29. The righteous shall inherit the land and dwell upon it forever. And verse 34, wait for the Lord and keep his way, and he will exalt you to inherit the land. So this inheritance of the land, or dwelling in it securely, or being part of it, is very central. Actually, they experience God as a God of the land, or God of the earth. The promised land they received, was a gift from God. So you see the connection again, no God, no land. And if there is no land, no human life. Again, no God, no land, no life. Therefore, God, land, and human life are interconnected. It's not any life or any kind of human life, but it's life lived humbly. It's the life of the meek people, simple people, needy people, people who depend upon God. So that's very important. Now, we can make the connection like this: God, land, life, and humility or meekness. So you cannot separate one from the other. If we live like lords and kings by forgetting God, we do not truly become the people of the land. We cannot have a real experience of the land, because the way you live, the way you do your day-to-day conduct has excluded God. So that's also we need to keep in our mind. So when we become truly humble, then we become the people of the land. Most people might ask the connection between the land and the humility. Actually, that is also a linguistic connection, because in Latin language, the humanity and humility has the same root. The Latin root is humus. The word humanity and the word humility, if you write it with H-U-M, right? Humanity, humility. You start with H-U-M, which come from a Latin root, humus. In English we call humus, but humus. Humus. That means soil. So to be human is to be down to earth. To be human is to become humble, in other words. So humble means, the connection to the earth, connection to the land, and to become down to earth. We have that English expression usually, right? We would say he's a very down to earth person, right? Kind of a very level-headed person, a humble person. He or she has no pride in him or her. That's very important. That understanding is very biblical actually. So that's why Jesus could say, without any doubt, without any reservation, those who meek shall inherit the land, so that they would begin to experience God truly and deeply. Right? So humility is also a quality in God. There is no pride in God at all. God is absolutely and perfectly and utterly humble. That's his nature. It's not God being humble. God is humble because even though he is God, no. God is humble precisely because he is God. That's his nature. That's his inner nature. There is zero pride in God. Pride belongs to Satan. Pride belongs to the devil. So since God is humble, perfectly humble, humans also ought to become humble. Since we are children of God, since we are his creatures, if he is humble, we have no choice but to become humble and to live humble lives on his earth. Then only we could experience the real nature of God. So proud people are not capable of experiencing God actually. Pride means you are full of yourself. Pride means there is no room for God. So proud people do not truly experience God because they have filled themselves with themselves. So God cannot enter them because they have blocked the way. They are full of themselves. So no room for God. Like there was no room for Christ in the inn when he was about to be born. So something like that. So therefore, the humbler we become, the closer we get to God. The humbler we become as human beings, the closer we get to God, and then we have a true experience of his land, his earth. Then you feel totally and perfectly at home here on earth. So that's why our connection to the earth is very crucial. This earthuality, the so-called earthiness, is very, very crucial because we came from the earth. We are earthly creatures. We came from the earth and our lives are sustained by the earth created by God. Actually, God sustains us in and through the earth, through the fruits and its, crops and other things we need as food and beverages. Right? So we came from the earth, we are sustained by the earth, and then one day we would return to the earth. You see, humans are earthly creatures through and through. And also the earth is like our second skin, without which life is impossible, because earth sustains our lives. If we destroy the earth, if we do any harm to the earth, human life will also get destroyed. So it's like truly our second skin. So we have our first skin, our biological skin, and our second skin is the earth. Any damage, any harm we do unto the earth will affect our first skin. So that's why we also need that earthly sensitivity. and to consider always earth as a creation of God. And the real master of the earth is not humans but God. So earth has been given to us as a gift. Therefore, we don't have an absolute right to the earth. It's only a secondary right. For an example, even if someone has a piece of land, if God has given that person a piece of land, a portion of land, that person has no absolute right. It's a secondary right. Secondary right means it's a gift. It has been given to him as a gift, and therefore he or she should utilize it for the common good, for the benefit of everybody and all the other people. Of course, as the owner, the temporary owner, he or she can also benefit from one's land, from the fruits of one's land, but other people should also benefit from the fruits of that land, that portion of land, because ultimately it belongs to God. So we could say, if you expand that idea, that insight, you could say the real owner of Sri Lanka is God. He is the owner. Sri Lanka belongs to God, but He has allowed us to live here. Different ethnic groups, different religious groups, different cultural groups to live in this country as their own country. That's all right. But the ultimate owner of Sri Lanka is God. It belongs to God. He is the real owner. And if you take, for an example, India, of course there are people, Hindus, Muslims, Buddhists, Christians, etc. God has allowed them to live, but the real owner, the real master of India is God, God the Creator. If you go to Pakistan, Bangladesh, if you go to Africa, America, Australia, everywhere it's the same. The earth is God's. Earth belongs to God, but He has allowed different groups of people, different ethnic groups, different races to inhabit the earth and make use of it, but only as a secondary right, not as an absolute right. Therefore, we cannot do whatever we like to the earth. Earth, if you remember in the second chapter of Genesis, was created as a garden of Eden, right? Garden in Eden. So, since earth had been created as a garden, what is the symbolism of a garden? If we have a garden, are we going to destroy it? Are we going to do all sorts of things to it? No. The symbol of a garden is we should take care of it. We should cherish it, maintain it, nourish it, and then improve upon it and develop it, and ultimately inherit and will give it unto future generations, right, as a gift. So it's not ours. We took care of it, develop it, and then we really cherish it, nourish it, and then kind of inherit it unto other people. So it becomes their gift, or it becomes their dowry. So that is the real meaning of the earth. We are not here as masters or destroyers. We are here as gardeners. We are here as its protectors, its maintainers, etc. So that's why, in order to develop that concept about the earth, we need to become meek. We need to become very humble. We need to become the Anavim of Yahweh, the Anavim of God. So then we will be thankful for this earth, and then we will develop a very humble attitude, because we know that this is not ultimately ours. A person with a sense of power, a sense of pride, a sense of kind of domination and control cannot enter into that experience. Therefore, that person cannot truly inherit the land, in the sense that person may own some pieces of land, that's different, but he or she cannot truly feel at home in the land or on earth, because he or she has no experience of God. So land is not a piece of material reality. It's not mere matter. Land is also a spiritual experience. So that's also one of the basic points of that teaching. It's a spiritual reality, because in the land you could experience God. That is why, if you remember in the when the Jewish people, when they were serving as slaves in Egypt, when Moses approached Pharaoh, King Pharaoh, the Emperor Pharaoh, Moses said, let us go, because we want to go to the desert and we want to worship God. You see, in their own land, in their own place, they wanted to worship God. So land is also associated with worshiping God, the God of the land, or the creator of the land. So that's also that connotation is also there, that meaning also there. So it's not mere a physical reality, a geological reality, a material reality. So land as a, let's say, a collection of soil and collection of, let's say, clay and stones and the pebbles, etc., or the rocks, no. Land is always a spiritual reality. And land is also a theological reality. Not only a geological reality, but also a theological reality, where you experience God, where the presence of God is strongly felt. So now you can see the rich meaning of the concept of land in the biblical revelation, and also not only in the Old Testament, but also in the teachings of Christ. So we need to enter into that experience as modern disciples of Christ. Our attitude about God's land, God's earth should be really should become a healthy one, should become an accurate one, and also theologically sound one, so that we could live our lives here on earth meaningfully. And we could also die one day meaningfully, because we truly experience the earth, we truly experience the land as a work of God. Not only that, we also experience God in the land. That's why everywhere on earth, every place on earth is also sacred, is holy, is divine, because God is everywhere. There is no place here on earth that is not holy. There is no place here on earth where God is absent. He is present everywhere. So everywhere and any place, any inch on earth is sacred, divine and holy and pure, because the land has been created by God, and land has been blessed by God. So this experience, this understanding should make us humble, should make us really down to earth and the meek. So no wonder Jesus said, "The blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth of God, the earth that belongs to God." So let us change our wrong attitudes, our destructive ideas about the earth and also about His creation. And let's develop a much more humble and much more down-to-earth attitude regarding the earth of God. So indeed and absolutely we could say Meek people are truly blessed. Meek people are truly, will truly inherit the land, will truly experience God while they live here on earth. So how we treat the earth, how we look at the earth is very important, because our ultimate destiny also depends upon Him. In other words, how we are going to live on God's earth will determine our life in God's heaven. So that's why heaven and the earth cannot be separated. So before we think of heaven, we need to do justice to our life here on earth, our life on this earthly pilgrimage. So that is the crucial factor, that is the decisive factor for our life after our death. So there is an organic connection between God's earth and God's heaven. So when we think of heaven, always we need to think of heaven not by forgetting God's earth, but in relation to the God's earth. So in other words, the quality of our future life depends upon the quality of our earthly life. The quality of the earthly life we lived will determine the nature of our heavenly life. So from now on, let us become aware about this connection and this great grand theological realization. So the earth is never a material or a material thing, or not simply a material reality. Earth is a spiritual reality, and a spiritual reality where we could experience God deeply. Thank you very much, and may God bless you all.